Welcome to Two Brothers Radio Control. FMS sent us the BAe Hawk 80mm EDF jet to review and talk about. But before we get into that, we just opened our own Discord server. The link is in the description. Come join us. It's designed to be accommodating for all kinds of pilots. Come talk planes with us. We look forward to meeting you.
What's going on, YouTube? Today I have got the BAe Hawk 80mm. Now, for those of you guys who have been around the hobby for a while, you know this has been out for a while too, but this feels like a version 2. I went back and looked at some RC groups posts, and I noticed that older posts from like 2020 or so did not have these hinges that are here, that you probably can't see them on the front there as easily as you can in the back. We have plastic hinges on the elevators, which is really nice. This is actually freewing style, so like what you normally see in their 80mm and up jets. We do have foam hinges on the flaps, but we do have hinged carbon fiber rods on the ailerons. The rudder is a regular foam hinge, just hopping into it. This thing's nice and lightweight. It's got an FMS 2100 kV 80mm motor in it. No afterburner today because the Hawk itself does not actually have one, so I decided for once to go for scale fidelity. We are flying this on an SMC 5300 pack, so this is a lithium high voltage pack, and they are available for sale on smcracing.com, so you guys should totally get them because this thing is going to scream. Guaranteed. If we don't scream this plane, your money back guaranteed. Like, I have fell completely in love with the SMC packs ever since I reached out to Danny and said, hey man, can we work with you to show these things off because they're just that good. Like, I reached out to him, he didn't reach out to me. That's how much I believe in this stuff. So let's go ahead and check our center of gravity and just get right up in the air. We are balancing right in front of the little mark on the wing there where my two fingers are. We got a nice center point balance here. Quick drawback that I don't like about this plane is I have to transport it with the wings on because there's a set of connectors that run through it like the Viper 70mm, and it's a real pain in the butt to disconnect everything from the receiver. So know that before you go into it. Before we go fly too, a couple small things. Sweet trailing link suspension on the gear. This thing's totally suitable for grass runways if you were to so fly it off of. We don't do that here. This grass is too thick. It's not designed for it. We are going to make use of this runway, and as the day gets on, we'll probably go out and use the main runway and bring the AV radio out and check it out. Nice lights on this thing too. Let's go ahead and get her up. Had it in safe. I left it in safe to check the gyro corrections and everything, and then took off in safe. That's why it looks so nice. But then I started realizing I couldn't roll. You have a persistent left roll. I think I fixed it, just about. Oh man, this thing's got some power to it with that lithium pack in it, that high voltage setup from Danny. Let's see the roll rate. That's insanity. I maxed out all the throws, as usual. You guys know how we do on this channel. And this thing is just, it's a little touchy. I need to actually bring it down to land it like that. It'll be different on the landing approach. Does nice little flips and flops up there. Not a true tumble by any stretch. May need to tame the gyro a little bit because it's a little wobbly. And here comes the wind, like always. Man, this thing looks good. I wasn't much of a fan of the Hawk, but man, like, I can appreciate it now with that landing light up front. It's super easy to spot. Load in some of those rolls. There we go. Go up and vertical. That's how much pressure we need to hold. Oh, need almost full stick to hold it. There we go. A little on the nose heavy side of things. It's easier when you got speed. Let it flop out of it. There we go. Nice gentle tail slide. Some of the gear doors are actually getting stuck out because they're on that little spring system. But other than that, man, I like how it flies. I just wish I had remembered to put in a little bit more Expo. I wasn't sure if I'd need it or not. Let's bring her back. Check the voltage. 23.9 volts on this high voltage pack. Not bad. We've been flying for a couple of minutes too. I just jammed the sticks to the top left to try to get it to tumble through the sky, and it did not want to do that. What say you to some touch and go practice, huh, sir?
Let's do it.
Spend a lot of time hot dogging it, and you never learn how to fly it. It's one of the normal problems people get into with maidens, and I'm myself included. So I'm gonna drop the gear. See how she handles in the flaps. Feels a little weird, almost like the gear doors are kind of interfering with its roll potential. Or it could be because I reduced the roll authority significantly. Flaps coming in. Yeah, it kind of hesitates when I roll it. I think the doors are interfering. Yeah, it's definitely not rolling as much. Oh, there it goes. Maybe my Expo, or no, my settings are off. So I need to make a precision approach here because it's not rolling like normal with the gear out. Like this is a half stick and it's barely moving. Setup failure on my part. That's okay, we'll fix it. Get it down. I make mistakes too, guys. Everybody does. If you're not making mistakes, you're not really flying. There we go. We are way too hot. You can always go around until you can't, but that's why it's a good thing that I checked all this stuff before deciding to commit to landing. Okay, we're gonna just bank it and then let it bleed off airspeed. Bring in the flaps. Could not flare it, ran out of flare authority, so I need to give it full rates to land it correctly. And man, I got it down just in time too before that wind gust picked up. See how it turns on the ground? Yeah, it's got a pretty good turn radius. I like that. We only have 17 feet of taxiway to work with. When we fly off the main runway, we have a little bit more. As it hits the little bumps, you can see it bouncing up and down. It's got some nice bounce to it. I mean, look at that nose wheel. It's got almost no pressure to it at all. So if you were to fly this off grass, you'd have no problems. Let's take it right back up now that I've done some changes to it and see how she handles. Without a safe takeoff, we have plenty of power left to fly with. Oh yeah. It's got a nice sound to it, doesn't it, man?
It does.
I love it when jets have a good sound and they don't sound weak. Like the Freewing 70mm F-35 sounds weak when you fly it. My roll rate's much better. This is much easier to work with. I have almost full rates now. The gear doors are for sure interfering with its ability to land correctly. That was almost a textbook landing except for the squirrely overcorrection with the rudder that I just did. But I mean, honestly, man, this thing's got a nice presence to it. It needs a little bit of up trim. There we go. Gear down, full flaps. May have pulled that brake a little too early. No, I think I got it. Descend throttle off. Add in some throttle as we get closer to the ground. These are simple flaps, so they generate a lot of drag. Always good to do this, man. When you're flying these things and you pay for them out of pocket, it's very important that you do these maiden checks, including like touch and goes, because if you can't get it down, it's gonna wreck and it's not gonna be a whole lot of fun to fix and repair. So, you know, just something to note.
Don't get caught in the hot dog moment, right?
I mean, you can always do this fun stuff later, but like this touch and go practice is so integral to a maiden flight, so you understand how it handles, what to expect from the airframe. I mean, I got it pretty much dialed in now. I don't need to do much else besides change the Expo on the ailerons, which is what I'm going to do here in a minute. When the gear up, it's just so twitchy feeling because I gave it so much throw. But part of that problem too, the reason why it feels so twitchy is because the ailerons are actually as far out in the wing as they can possibly be, so they have the most moment force to overcome the roll inertia of the jet, so they can really force it to roll in ways that a lot of other jets can't because they don't have the ailerons at the actual wingtip. See that? That's where all that roll potential is coming from. So I'm going to change my gear up roll Expo to 75% from 50. So when I'm halfway through the stick, this is what I get. And then at full extent, I still get the whole stick for what I want to do. So I think I like it so far. My first initial maiden impression of it is it's got power to spare, man. It's got good looks too. I mean, This thing looks really nice. It's even got Super Stash up front here. That guy's kind of a good luck charm because I've flown a lot of models with him in it, like my 2 Viper 90s. This bugger, I think he's in the Super Scorpion that went live last week as well. And it's got nice lights all over it. I mean, this is really good quality. These little gear doors too, they're actually on a spring right here. And when these gear drop, they press the spring and it drops the gear. If they get caught by a wind gust or something, sometimes as they come in, they'll catch on the gear. So if you see that, you can drop them and then pull them back up. That happens a lot. Not really a big deal with these models. These little scoops, these air scoops up front here, are actually functional. They do throw air over the EFC, which is awesome. I love when they have scale details like that actually do something, that aren't just there for looks. So these are actual scoops. If you look in there just right, you can actually see that in there. So these scoops are a nice functional detail. It's got sweet antennas on it. We did kind of go through some dirt, so there's a little bit of dirt on the bottom of the plane, kind of marring up the otherwise nicely painted surface. These little ventral stabilizer fins come right off if you want them to. They're so small, I don't see a point of ever taking them off. Overall, my first impressions of this jet, for the maiden flight, I'm going to give this a solid 8.5 out of 10. It's got amazing gear, a little touchy on the flight, but that's my setup error, but still something to be aware of if you're flying it. The gear door system, I think, is phenomenal, nothing less than phenomenal, because most of these planes don't have a second gear door like this that closes over the well like that. A lot of times they'll just have this little side door here that's still visible so you can see the wheels. So that's a really, really nice touch that FMS put in there that you don't normally get to see with a lot of other models. So I thought that was pretty cool. Overall, the hinge quality is pretty nice. I mean, the motor in this thing is best in class. You're not going to find a better motor out there. Even with free-wing jets, people take their motors out and they put in FMS motors because they're lighter and they put in a lot more thrust when you give that command. Will's over here like shaking his head like, yeah, I know what you're talking about, because he's done the same thing, haven't you? Yep. I've done the same thing too. The only time I didn't upgrade to an FMS motor was with the F-14 because I just wanted that drop-in replacement on the 2 stock 80mm units from free-wing, because it just would be less work than having to carve 2 engine exhausts out just to get a big motor in there. So yeah, overall 8.5 out of 10. I really like it. We'll see if that rating goes up or down as I continue to fly it today.
The Hawk has some interesting flight characteristics. It got put through more of its paces off camera to test its flight envelope, and it does not want to bite when the stick is pulled hard, even at low airspeeds. The best way to describe it that I can think of is that it flies like a Viper that doesn't want to drop a wing when it stalls. During level speed passes, I found that it needed a lot of down elevator pressure to keep it flying level. More so than I was expecting, as similar jets that I've flown usually require a lighter touch.
It is a little hard to rotate for a flare, even with the battery shoved all the way to the back. I feel like I get the CG further back, but it could be a consequence of the design of the wing, too. Yeah, it's twitchy when you get it right above the ground like that. When you want to go to give it a flare, it almost feels like it's going to drop a wing on you. Okay, so it is flaring. It's just the wheelbase just looks so weird to me. It looks like it's not flaring at all. 5 minutes of flight on it though. Part of that was taxiing, which actually takes more flight power because you have to overcome the resistance of the wheels on the ground. Let's go ahead and bring it in and we'll give you guys my final thoughts on it before we wrap up here. I do like this jet. I think it flies pretty well. It does have some squirrely characteristics when the gear doors come out. They do they give it a little bit more roll inertia that you have to overcome, and that's why I'm flying with 100% rates on everything, even when the gear are out, when I normally do gear-based rates. There we go. No, not into the crappy pavement. Oh, wheelie, whee! Now it's in the crappy pavement. It's going to tear those wheels up, but that's okay. I'll probably switch them out for low bounce wheels at some point, or just super lights. Super lights are pretty good too, because they're very lightweight, and they still have some squish to them because they're made out of soft foam. So my honest thoughts on this jet, I mean, I like the way it looks. It looks really cool. I do think that these gear doors are interfering just enough with the ability of the servos to overcome the jet's roll moment of inertia, which is keeping it from really rolling as much as you want it to. Like, unless I had, like, I'm flying with 150% rates, right? And I've got the servo arms maxed out, as you can see here. And even with that, when I went down to 67% rates, which is 100% rates, which is 67% of 150 is 100%. Just trust me on this, that's how it is. What ends up happening is I go to roll it and it hesitates for a moment. It rolls a little bit, almost like these gear doors are actually interfering with it, acting like an extra vertical stabilizer. I got a little hornet burrow up there. He wants to hang out on it too. So basically, I think these doors, while they do look cool, you need to be aware, looking for aircraft traffic, you need to be aware that they do actually interfere with some of the aerodynamics of the jet, and you need to maybe give it a little bit more stick. Don't be afraid to use high expo and high throws on this jet. You're going to probably want to if you want to be able to get it down without having to worry about it kind of catching as you roll it, because it would go like this and then stop, even with half stick input. So it was really weird feeling. So that's something to be concerned with. What did I call this thing earlier? An 8.5, or was it an 8?
I think you said 8.5.
I'm still going to stick by that. I think 8.5 is good. I think while I do love this door setup, it is obviously, to me at least, interfering with the way the plane flies, which can be a problem, especially if you're not used to it. You might think there's something wrong with it. It's just aerodynamics at work, guys. These are acting as extra stabilizers, which are preventing the jet from trying to roll as much. It's trying to keep it from rolling. That's what the vertical stabilizer does too, to an extent. It keeps it tracking straight in the sky. But these are also, when they pop out, the jet's characteristics change just enough that it does come a little bit weird to fly. But otherwise, I mean, this thing looks phenomenal. The finish and fit on it is pretty good. I love that they actually put the stickers and took the time to put them across. Freewing's F5, they didn't even bother. I had to put my own white electrical tape on it to get the gear doors to match. I thought that was pretty lame, personally. The overall impression is, like, you know, I love these, like when they hinge the servos, like, or not servos, but the control surfaces, and they have proper hinges that aren't foam. That's when I love it the most, because that's what I always ask for from these things. I want them to be able to be durable, so I don't have to take hinges and then cut the control surface off and then rehinge them myself. That's just extra work that I don't want to have to do. It's really, really bright out here, man. This November sun in North Carolina is some strong stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think in the comments, and maybe consider getting one for yourself from the links in the description. See you guys again next time.